There are no facts, only interpretations. Whenever I think about novel, this profound statement by Friedrich Nietzsche comes into my mind. Welcome to English Cocktail, and here we are going to deal with novel, certain basic facts. Well, the word novel sprouts from the Latin root novus, which means new. So novel is a new kind of telling story. Is it new? That is a question. Well, from the Eurocentric point of view, the novels emerged in the 17th or late 17th, early 18th centuries. But we shall go into detail and find that the things are not exactly so. Considering the general definition of novel as a long narrative tale told in prose, the genre can be traced back to very old times. Yet it is called new. But the fact is that the novels emerged in the 18th century in profusion and gained popularity in the 18th and 19th centuries, and it continues to such an extent that today novels have surpassed all other forms of literary genres in readership as well as in profit. Now, let us look into the reasons, the pivotal reasons which caused a flourish of novels, the rise of novels, the phenomenon as literary historians call, happened in the 18th century. That means 1700 to 1701 to 1800. That particular period, which witnessed the rise of the novels. The phenomenon is because of certain basic features or reasons which happened in the whole culture of Europe in general and England in specific. Let us move into those reasons. The first reason is the emergence of print culture. Printing became a very popular thing, and its feasibility and its opportunities were manipulated. You know that the first English daily, it came out in 1702. The Daily Current was its name, Courant, the Daily Current. It was established in 1702. The particular period witnessed the emergence of various periodicals. I hope we all are familiar with Tatler, Spectator, Rambler and such other periodicals which were popular in England during this period. Remember, the period was also called Age of Reason. There is a very old statement concerning poetry and prose. Poetry is the language of emotions, while prose is that of reason. No doubt, prose became the most popular kind of writing in the age of reason. Number 2, the rise of the middle class. The Renaissance period gave birth to modernity, which was based on the market, the commerce. It completely annihilated the already degrading feudalism. And as we all know, the various East India companies were created by the European nations to trade with the Eastern world. And because of this new kind of movement in human life, European life, a new society emerged, and a new class, a new social class emerged, especially based on this direct merchant life and associated fields. And this middle class, they were actually really aspired to have a social upward movement, and they found new kind of writing, the novel, as the most appropriate form to represent, to capture their aspirations, their fears, their predicaments and all. So naturally they were the greatest admirers and of course the consumers of the new form called novel. And the third reason is a corollary to the second one. In the 18th century, you will find a very wide expanse of women readers. Because of the new social economic situations, a new domestic culture emerged where women had leisure time at home. So instead of reading scholastic writings or very difficult poetry, they were naturally inclined to prose writings and especially novels which told interesting tales. So these three reasons are very, very important for the gaining popularity of novels, what we call the rise of the novel in the 18th century. And in connection with the first point, the print culture, multiple copies of novels were able to be made. They were circulated by different clubs, like libraries, groups were there. They used to share it. And of course with market, the saleability of the novels also brought profit to the writers. So upcoming writers were naturally attracted to the new the new flourishing genre called novel. And so novel was well established, well set in the European literary soil in the 18th century. What makes them modern? These novels, which emerged in the 18th century, they were totally different from the earlier ones in theme as well as in style, in presentation. Because the old novels dealt with the old world and the new novels dealt with the new world, new circumstances, new kind of life, new kind of experiences. Therefore, we have modern novels, which is the first modern novel. In 2002, the Norwegian Nobel Institute conducted a most expansive authors poll to find out the most influential work of literature, and the credit went to the first modern novel, Don Quixote, a Spanish novel written by Miguel de Cervantes, which came out in 1605 and in 1615 as two parts respectively. And Ben Okri, the Nigerian writer, while announcing the result, said, "If there is one novel you should read before you die, it is Don Quixote, or what we commonly call Don Quixote." Especially in മലയാളത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെ വിളിക്കുക, പൊതുവെ അറിയപ്പെടുന്നത് ഡോൺ ക്വിക്സട്ട് എന്നൊക്കെയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഒരു കഥ കിടക്കുന്നത്. 18ാം നൂറ്റാണ്ടിൽ ഉണ്ടായ സാമൂഹിക സാമ്പത്തിക മാറ്റങ്ങൾ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഈ കൊളോണിയലിസം ഒക്കെ തുടങ്ങി വരുന്ന വേരുറപ്പിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സമയമാണ്. കച്ചവടമായിരുന്നല്ലോ അവരുടെ എല്ലാ ഉദ്ദേശം തന്നെ. അപ്പോൾ ഈ കച്ചവടത്തിലൂടെ ഒരു പുതിയൊരു സാമൂഹിക സാമ്പത്തിക വിഭാഗം യൂറോപ്പിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഇംഗ്ലണ്ടിലും ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഈ മധ്യവർഗം, അത് കച്ചവടമായിരുന്നു പ്രധാനം. കച്ചവടം അതിനോട് ചേർന്നിട്ടുള്ള മറ്റ് പല 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 ജീവിത മാർഗങ്ങളിലൂടെ സമ്പത്ത് കൈവരിച്ച കുറച്ച്, എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നൊബിലിറ്റി എന്ന് പറയാം, ഏറ്റവും ഉയർന്ന തലത്തിലൊന്നും രാജാവും പ്രഭുക്കന്മാരും അല്ല, എന്നാൽ അവർ അതിലേക്ക് എത്താൻ, പ്രഭുത്വത്തിലേക്ക് എത്താൻ കാംക്ഷിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വിഭാഗമായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അവരുടെ ഈ ഒരു നിർമ്മാണത്തിലൂടെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സംഭവിച്ചതിലൂടെ, അങ്ങനെ ഒരു മധ്യവർഗം ഉടലെടുത്തതിലൂടെ അവരുടെ കാമനകളും മറ്റും വളരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് അവതരിപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റിയ ഒരു മീഡിയമായി മാറി നോവൽ. കവിതയേക്കാളും സറ്റയർ എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആക്ഷേപഹാസ്യങ്ങളാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതിനേക്കാളൊക്കെ ഏറ്റവും മികച്ച രീതിയിൽ പുതിയ ജീവിതം, അതിൻ്റെ പുതിയ വൈഷമ്യങ്ങളും അവരുടെ ആകാംക്ഷകളും ഒക്കെ വളരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് രേഖപ്പെടുത്താൻ പറ്റിയ ഒരു സാഹിത്യ രൂപം തന്നെയായിരുന്നു നോവൽ. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ നോവൽ വരാൻ. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ പ്രിൻറ്റിങ് പ്രസ് എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ് വളരെ മുമ്പേ വന്നിരുന്നുവെങ്കിലും അത് വളരെ പ്രയോജനകരമായ രീതിയിൽ ജനങ്ങളിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുന്ന ആ സമയമാണ്. ആദ്യത്തെ ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പർ വരുന്നത് 1702 പിന്നീട് ധാരാളം ഈ മാസികകൾ പോലുള്ള ഈ കൃത്യമായ സമയങ്ങളിൽ ഇറങ്ങുന്ന പീരിയോഡിക്കൽസ് ധാരാളം വന്നു. അങ്ങനെ ഇത് സ്ത്രീകൾ വലിയ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം കൊടുത്തിരുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ എഴുത്തും വായനയൊക്കെ സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് അറിയാമായിരുന്നു. ആ രീതിയിലുള്ളൊരു പ്രൊമോഷൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഈ സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് വീട്ടിലിരിക്കുന്ന അവർക്ക് എക്സ്ട്രാ ടൈം കിട്ടി, സമയം ചെലവഴിക്കാൻ അവർക്ക് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ആ സമയത്ത് ഈ കവിതകൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വലിയ ബൗദ്ധികമായിട്ടുള്ള കൃതികൾ വായിക്കുന്നതിനേക്കാൾ അവർക്കിഷ്ടം ഈ സാധാരണക്കാരുടെ നമ്മൾ അനുഭവിക്കുന്ന ചുറ്റുപാടുള്ള അനുഭവങ്ങൾ വെച്ചിട്ടുള്ള നോവലുകൾ വായിക്കാനായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ നോവലുകൾ ഇത്രയും ജനപ്രിയമാകുന്നത്. ജനപ്രിയമായതോടുകൂടി തന്നെ എന്ത് പറ്റുക എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ എഴുതുന്ന ആൾക്കാർക്ക് വരുമാനമുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ പുതിയ വരുന്ന എഴുത്തുകാരെല്ലാം സ്വാഭാവികമായിട്ടും നോവൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ ഒരു സാഹിത്യ രൂപത്തിലേക്ക് ആകർഷിക്കപ്പെടുകയും നോവലുകൾ ധാരാളം രചിക്കപ്പെടുകയും ആസ്വദിക്കപ്പെടുകയും ചെയ്തു. ഇതാണ് 18ാം നൂറ്റാണ്ടിൽ നമ്മൾ കണ്ടുവരുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യം. അപ്പോൾ we came to the point that the first modern novel is Don Quixote. Now before moving into the first novel, which is the first novel, let us look at the requisites, the necessary qualities for a work to be called a novel. ഒരു നോവൽ ആകണമെങ്കിൽ അടിസ്ഥാനപരമായി വേണ്ട ചില കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ഒന്നാമത്തത് അത് ഗദ്യത്തിലായിരിക്കണം. prose. It should be in prose. Second is it should have a considerable length. ഒരു നല്ല ദൈർഘ്യം ഉണ്ടാകും. 2-3 പേജുകളാണെങ്കിൽ നോവലിന് വിളിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ഒരു നല്ലൊരു ലെങ്ത് ഉണ്ടാവണം. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് മൂന്നാമത്തെ പോയിന്റിലേക്ക് വരാം. ലൈഫ് അതിലുണ്ടാവണം. ദർ ഷുഡ് ബി റെപ്രസെൻറ്റേഷൻ ഓഫ് ലൈഫ്, ഇംപ്രഷൻസ് ഓഫ് ലൈഫ്, റിയൽ ലൈഫ്, human, psychological or social or cultural conflicts, troubles, their dreams, all should have a representation. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു യഥാർത്ഥമായിട്ടുള്ള ഡയറക്റ്റായിട്ട് നേരിട്ടോ നേരിട്ടല്ലാതെ directly or indirectly they have to represent, because when we come to the 20th century you will find a lot of novels focusing on one character, like that those of കാഫ്കയുടെ ഒക്കെ കൃതികൾ വരുവാണെങ്കിൽ പലപ്പോഴും ഒറ്റ ക്യാരക്ടറിനെ ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് പറയാം ഇത് സമൂഹമില്ലല്ലോ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴും indirectly there is society. Through the particular character the author is telling a lot about society, about human crisis which are universal. ഒരു വ്യക്തി എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ മൊത്തം ആ വംശത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകമായി നിൽക്കുന്ന സന്ദർഭങ്ങളിൽ ആ വ്യക്തിയുടെ ഉള്ളിലുള്ള ആത്മപ്രകാശം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആ മൊത്തം വംശത്തിൻ്റെയും കൂടെ ആയി മാറുന്ന സിറ്റുവേഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ നേരിട്ടോ അല്ലാതെ ഡയറക്ട്ലി ഓർ ഇൻഡയറക്ട്ലി ലൈഫ് ഷുഡ് ബി ദെയർ ഇൻ നോവൽസ്. ആൻഡ് ദെൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സ് ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി ഫിക്ഷണൽ. The content should be basically fictional. It can be based on history. ചരിത്രപരമായ നോവലുകളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്. ബയോഗ്രഫിക്കൽ നോവൽസ് ഉണ്ട്. ചില ചരിത്ര പുരുഷന്മാരുടെയോ സ്ത്രീകളുടെയൊക്കെ ജീവിതത്തെ ബേസ് ചെയ്ത് നമുക്ക് നോവലുകൾ എഴുതിയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ അടുത്ത കാലത്താണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് രാജാരവിവർമ്മയെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള നോവൽ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള നോവലുകളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാകുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എന്നിരുന്നാലും അത് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് സത്യമാണെങ്കിൽ, if the novel is completely telling the truth about the life of a person, it is a biography. So there should be fiction. അതിനകത്ത് സാങ്കല്പികതയുടെ അംശം ധാരാളം ഉണ്ടാവണം, ആവശ്യത്തിന് ഉണ്ടാവണം. എങ്കിൽ മാത്രമാണ് അതിനെ നോവൽ എന്ന് വിളിക്കാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. അപ്പോൾ ഇത്രയും ഈ 4 കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് പ്രധാനമായിട്ടും നോവലിന് വേണ്ട ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ്. 1, പ്രോസ് ആയിരിക്കണം. 2, ലെങ്ത് ഉണ്ടാവണം. 3, അതിനകത്തൊരു ഫിക്ഷണൽ എലമെന്റ് ഉണ്ടാവണം. 4, ജീവിതം ഉണ്ടാവണം. So these 4 elements should be there if you want to call a work a novel. Now, on the basis of these basic elements, if you look into literary history, you will find that the first novel is 11th century Japanese work by Lady Murasaki, titled The Story of Genji. It was written around 1008. 1008 എഴുതപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുള്ള, പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്തത് 20-നോടടുത്താണ്, 1020-നോടടുത്ത് പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ട കൃതിയാണ് ഈ ലേഡി മുറസാക്കിയുടെ സ്റ്റോറി ഓഫ് ഗെഞ്ചി. അതാണ് ലോകത്തിലെ ആദ്യത്തെ നോവൽ എന്നറിയപ്പെടുന്നത്. ലേഡി ഷിക്കുബു മുറസാക്കി, ഷീ റോട്ട് ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് നോവൽ which is in Japanese, written in 1008 Common Era. Let us look, as being the students of English, we should know something about the origin of, something importantly in connection with English novels. Which is the first English novel? That is a very controversial topic. When I was in my college, I was told that Pamela, Samuel Richardson's Pamela, is the first novel. Later, as I progressed with my studies, I came upon certain texts which say that Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe is the first novel. Robinson Crusoe, of course, it was published in 1719, whereas Pamela came only in 1740. So there is a gap, though it is very small, between these 2 novels. Then even in today, there are other contestants coming up to claim as the first novel in English. It can be, there is a name of Jonathan Swift with The Tale of a Tub, which was published in 1704. And a very attractive work, a very notable work, which has been as a center of discussions today, of studies today, is a work written by a female author, which was released in 1688, rather published in 1688, the year of the Glorious Revolution. The author is Afra Ben, and the work is Orunoko. Orunoko, the complete title is Orunoko, or The History of the Royal Slave. So that is also a contestant to be called as the first novel in English. So, which is the first novel? It's a controversial topic. We should be, if you want to be safe, you have to drop it. But of course, one thing is sure, that the first real novel, so that, there is another question, can there be unreal novels? Novels are basically unreal, but still, from the point of view of modern novel, with the definition of modern novel, we can say for sure that the first real English novel was Richardson's Pamela, which was published in 1740 or 41. And this particular novel is called the first true novel in English because it focused on the contemporary society. It went into depth with the characters, and it used very appropriate style or method to reflect those things. It is also the first true epistolary novel in English. Epistolary novel which reveals itself in the form of letters and other documents. Richardson's Pamela is the first true novel in its technical almost perfection, with its topic of discussion and characterization. So these here comes the history. From there begins the real history of what we call modern English novels. We shall have look into the different sub-genres or different kinds of novels. There are a variety of novels, and they can be categorized as: one is epistolary novel, of which I just told now. Pamela is one of the epistolary novels. A very famous epistolary novel is Pamela. There are other works also. And okay. As an example, I may mention Dracula by Bram Stoker. The whole story, the horror-filled story of Dracula, is revealed in the form of letters between Jonathan Harker and Mina, and there are certain reports from newspapers. Diary entries are there. So all these things are the forms which tell the story of the Count Dracula. So that is epistolary novel. Another one is picaresque novel. In picaresque novel, the central character, or what we call protagonist, he follows or she follows a life of adventure. You will find constantly this character journeying from place to another and encountering various adventures and gradually developing himself or herself with those experiences. And in most cases, these characters are from the marginalized sections, maybe a beggar or a thief, or a person from a very, very poor, neglected family, etc. So examples: Huckleberry Finn, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Adventure of Tom Sawyer. These are examples for picaresque. Even Tom Jones is another example. Another category is Kunstler novel, Kunstler Roma, which can be translated as artist novel. In this novel, the protagonist will be a person who eventually becomes an artist, a painter or a writer. So you can find how this character progresses, how this character faces a lot of troubles and tribulations in his or her life, and finally achieves at his or her his aim to become a writer, painter. So as we say that, immediately comes into our mind a perfect example of this particular novel, Kunstler Roma, by James Joyce. A portrait of an artist as a young man is a typical example for Kunstler Roma. David Copperfield by Charles Dickens is another notable example. David Copperfield, which has a very, very strong biographical references of Dickens, like Dickens himself, eventually becomes a writer. Now another category is Bildungsroman, 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 which tells the gradual psychological and moral development of characters. That is a Bildungsroman. Jane by Charlotte Bronte is an example for Bildungsroman. David Copperfield, it also is an example for Bildungsroman. So another type is a historical novel. Now if a novel is based on historical background with historical characters can be there or may not be there. Historical personalities can be a character in the novel, or they may not be a character in the novel, but yet it has got a very strong historical implications. Such novels are called historical novels, but the basic plot of action is fictional. Even though the action can have some kind of connections with the real incident, the plot and the movement is basically fictional. And the person who introduced the historical novels, the father of historical novels, is none other than Sir Walter Scott. Okay, and his novels are typical examples of, plenty of his novels, the Ivanhoe, Kenilworth, etc. And then there is a famous novel from France by Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo, The Three Musketeers, etc. Another type of novel is the Gothic novel. Gothic novels, which became very popular in the Romantic period, which was introduced by Horace Walpole in 1764, deals with mysteries, mysterious characters and mysterious locations, which often include Gothic architectural spaces like all the castles with dark corridors and chambers. And because of this horror-filled, thrilling experience, these novels were called Gothic, because most of these novels have these Gothic old architectural buildings as the background. And for example, we have the first Gothic novel, The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. Dracula is another example. Frankenstein, the first science fiction by Mary Shelley, is another example for this Gothic novel. And then we have the romantic novels. Romantic novels deal with the love life of central characters. So the basic plot revolves around the relationship between the hero and the heroine, which eventually comes into a happy conclusion, a union of the hero and heroine. And such kind of novels are called romantic novels. And most of the Jane Austen novels are of the type Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth and Darcy, you can find. Then Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, such kind of novels are these romance novels. And even to some extent, to a larger extent, you can call the greatest novel, as called by plenty, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, can be also read as, though it is a realist novel about which we come soon. It is also considered as a romantic novel because it's connected with the romantic life, love life, imaginary life of the beautiful Anna and other characters. And another type of novel, subgenre of novel, is the realist novel, which really came out in the 19th century. Realism, the real life reflection, the real life characters and the real socio-political background. And this kind of novels emerged in the 19th century, and it was very wholeheartedly accepted until the beginning of the modern period. Tolstoy's novels, Dostoevsky's novels, and Charles Dickens' novels, all these novels have realism in them. So these novels are realistic novels. And finally, I would like to introduce you to a subgenre called Roman Flog. Romanfleuv is a French term for river novel. There are a few novels which cannot be contained in one single book. They run over into another book. Multi-volume novels. These river novels or stream novels, which flow from one book to another and from that book to another, multi-volume novels are called Roman Flog. Best example is Remembrance of Things Past by Marcel Proust. And of course, The Human Comedy by none other than Balzac, the famous French author. പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ലാൻഡ്മാർക്ക് നോവലുകളെ ഞാൻ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. ഒന്നാമത് ആദ്യത്തെ നോവൽ, the first novel is the story of Genji by Lady Murasaki. First modern novel is Don Quixote by Cervantes. First science fiction, അത് മേരി ഷെല്ലിയുടെ ഫ്രാങ്കൻസ്റ്റൈൻ നോവലാണ്. 1818 അത് റിലീസായത്. ഡോൺ ക്വിക്സറ്റിൻ്റെ ഒന്നാമത്തെ ഭാഗം 1605 വന്നു. So Don Quixote, the first part came out in 1605 and the second in 1615. But you can watch, you can see that in the list given. So nothing to worry about the year. I am not going to mention the year because it is already depicted. So Frankenstein by Mary Shelley is the first science fiction novel. William Meister's Apprenticeship. It's a German novel by Goethe. It is the first Bildungsroman. 1795-96 period. It's the first Bildungsroman. So William Meister's Apprenticeship. Then the first Kanzler Roma is Ludwig Tieck's Franz Sternbach's Wandering. That is the first Kanzler Roma. That is also a German work. Ludwig Tieck's Franz Sternbach's Wanderings. The original title is Franz Sternbach's Wanderungen. Okay, forget about it. You can stick on with the English translation. First historical novel, of course, by Sir Walter Scott. It is Waverley, published in 1840. Waverley is the first historical novel. First real novel in English. First real novel in English is Samuel Richardson's Pamela. So, to conclude, novel as a genre has a tradition of antiquity, but in ancient times they were written in ones and twos here and there. But as a modern novel, as a popular form, it emerged in the 18th century. And in the 19th century, the basis or the basics of novels were well set in form as well as in content. And the 20th century was of experiments, from the modern authors to the postmodern authors. We have a tradition of experimenting with novels to fit with the new times and new experiences. So we have the modern technique of stream of consciousness or interior monologue to the postmodern magic realism. And in the 21st century, the novel continues to enthrall us. So that's all for the day. If you like the video, please comment, subscribe and share. So bye bye until we meet again with another topic.